Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. For today's video we're going to be talking about and reviewing the film Minions Rise of Gru, which came out in early July. I've been wanting to review it. I went to see it in the cinemas, but just haven't had a chance to review the movie itself. But for me, when it comes to the Minions movie, I wasn't a huge fan of the first one. I just felt like the Minions as a whole are great side characters. They're hilarious, they're entertaining, but I feel like they can't hold a whole movie just them looking for like villains, going from villain to villain to villain. I feel like they need somebody with them, which is why Gru is like the perfect person to like lead them, to have the movie with them as a side character. So the first movie, it really wasn't like a great success for me. It wasn't a great start to a trilogy basically, or a franchise when it comes to like the Minions. But with this movie, I think it's complete night and day to the first movie, and that is because Gru was the storyline. It was the plot about Gru trying to, as like a younger version, a prequel of the Despicable Me movie, him as like a young boy trying to get in with the villains, trying to get into the Vicious Six basically, as like the villainous group. And for me, when it comes to like the Despicable Me movies, I thoroughly enjoyed the Despicable Me movies. The first one, hands down, is the best like movie out of all 5 of them. And with this one, it comes as like a close second for me when it comes to this movie. And in terms of like the visualization and the animation in the movie, I found it amazing. I found it amazing. I found the visuals really great. The animation of the Minions, animation of the movie itself really was great to look at. And the shots in like San Francisco, especially with the scenery, though everything looked just great. I liked how in this movie too, it didn't focus on all the Minions. Like, it focused on a few. Like, you've got the 3, Kevin, Stuart, and Bob, as the 3 like main minions, but then you also have like one Otto, who is like the clumsy one and like is messed up and trying to like recover to get in the good books with Gru. The movie starts out basically with the Vicious Six going into like a cave trying to get this medallion which has ancient powers of like these ancient animals. And so the Vicious Six take the medallion, but then they get rid of the oldest member of the Vicious Six in Knuckles. And so they are starting to interview for like the vacant spot, which is where Gru comes in. And Gru basically, as a young boy, is trying to be interviewed with them and doesn't get the role because he's a kid, he's too young. So instead he goes and steals that medallion and is basically being chased by the Vicious Six. Like, the plot when it comes to Gru, when he's trying to like impress the Vicious Six to like stealing from them, to then going and getting kidnapped by Knuckles, who we eventually find out did like survive being kicked out of the Vicious Six, etc. So like, you have Gru's plot where he's like he goes from being trying to get into like the Vicious Six to like eventually wanting to become his own like super villain, which is where like you see him in the first Despicable Me movie. So with his plot, how he like learns and adapts and like looks up to like his hero basically when it comes to Knuckles, this older super villain, and how he like gains the knowledge and like the expertise and like what he needs to do to become that super villain, I thought was a very nice plot. It ties very nicely with like Gru and how he acts in the later movies in Despicable Me 1, 2 and 3, and you see how he grows and turns into the super villain, how he becomes so like evil and vicious basically, because in the movie itself you see him as like a kid being like a menace to society, and with the Minions too, like just being despicable essentially. So you see how he like learns and adapts and becomes even more like vicious and super villainy kind of with learning from like Knuckles and everything like that. So I liked his plot line. I liked how it evolves him, and you see that character evolution basically. But because you have to like involve the Minions, because the Minions are like a good part of the movie, and they are like what kids go and see. So because he like stole the medallion and he gave it to one of the minions called Otto, Otto went in a separate direction, and eventually you find out that he traded the medallion with this kid for a rock, like a pebble with ice. And so then you have his little, because you basically have like little subplots between, you've got Gru's plot, you've got Otto's plot, and then you've got the three minions, Stuart, Bob, and Kevin, who find out that, who they see Gru getting kidnapped, so they have to go and like try and rescue him. So that plot, you have like three little plots, but they are like they aren't like a waste of a plot. Basically, they aren't like dragging out or like an unnecessary plot. Because with Otto, the only negative I have when it comes to Otto's storyline is that once he trades the medallion and then he's trying to like retrieve it and get it back, he finds out that the person he gave it to, this little kid, gave it to his uncle, and his uncle's driving on a motorbike across the country, like with Otto having to like chase after him with his little bicycle. The only like nitpick I have with that is that like once the uncle finally catches up to like Otto, or Otto catches up to the uncle sort of just like hands him the medallion, like no questions asked, no thoughts about why he's just giving away something that belongs to him in his eyes to this random thing. So he just kind of just hands it to him, but I guess it needs to like progress the plot forward, or progresses the story forward. So it kind of just hands it to him, and then picks him up and takes Otto to San Francisco because he knows that's where he needs to be, essentially. So it was sort of like a good plot, but it just kind of felt like cheated a little bit, because you're giving him like the medallion and all that stuff to just push the story forward. That's the only like nitpick I have with that. But then when it comes to like Stuart, Kevin, and Bob's storyline, like once they find out Gru gets kidnapped and basically go on a mission to try and find him, it was entertaining with like what they have to do. It was entertaining where they have to like try and learn kung fu, like that little montage of them learning kung fu. It may have been stupid humor, but it was entertaining, like watching them learn the moves. Like it was hilarious, and it was like entertaining, and like it paid off in the end too, because like towards the end, once the Vicious Six finds Gru, and like they finally get the medallion back, and they turn into like these creatures and everything, like dragons and bisons and all that kind of stuff. You kind of see like Kevin, Bob, and Stuart like using the little kung fu to try and like overcome the villains, basically. So it was like a nice little subplot that kind of paid off towards the end there. However, then eventually once they like do overcome the odds, do rescue Gru, do like the kung fu and everything like that to like beat the Vicious Six, turn them into like mouse. It was a great little sequence to the movie, and it was a nice like way of like beating the villains, because then after all that, like you have the minions, you have Gru going to the funeral of like one of the Vicious Six, like Knuckles, the one that's been training Gru. You have that little funeral, but then you find out that he's still alive. He like tricked the authorities and everything, so you have that nice little plot. There you have them riding off basically into the sunset. But overall, in terms of the movie itself, the movie was like a nice pace. It was a nice change of pace to the original first Minions movie, and it's definitely a great prequel to like the Despicable Me movies. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I definitely think it is worth like a watch, especially if you like the Despicable movies. If you wasn't a fan of the first Minions movie, I feel like you'll definitely enjoy the second one, because it is definitely a complete change of pace, and it's got a nice plot to it, because you have the Minions and the group together working well together compared to like the first movie. So definitely check out like this movie. If you have kids, I think the kids will definitely enjoy this movie, definitely enjoy the animations in this movie itself. So yeah, this is my like take and my opinion of the Minions Rise of Gru. I apologize I didn't have it out sooner. I just wasn't able to like put it out, but let me know if you have seen the movie, what you thought about the movie, what you thought about the first one compared to this one, and your overall thoughts on like the whole Despicable Me Minions franchise itself. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any video. I really appreciate all the support on the channel here. I also have a link in the description on my Twitter page. Go follow me on Twitter. I will be trying to post like regularly on there, letting you know whenever the video does get uploaded, so link is in the description down below. But again, thank you so much for watching. This is YK Reviews.